Oh, boys and girls, this school refusal thing, it never goes away. I'm actually recording this on Tuesday, and Andy is at school today, but it's about yesterday, and yesterday he didn't go to school. He's also not having a very good day at school today by the reports we're getting through from the school as well. So I don't know what implications it's going to have for the rest of the week. But yeah, off the back of the Nottingham trip that we went on Sunday, he then refused to go to school yesterday, Monday, partly because I think he was tired. We got back from Nottingham, it's probably 6:30, 7 o'clock that we got home, and he was tired and didn't have time to do all of his normal decompressing things that he does after he's had a trip or he's been out. And I think he just wanted to do some of that. He ended up being a little bit grumpy about having his bath on Sunday night. That ended up being a little bit later than it normally would be. Sunday night is hair wash night, and he absolutely hates having his hair washed at the moment. We're having to use sort of dry rubbing shampoo because he will not let any water go on his head at the moment. So Sunday night baths are becoming more and more of an issue. He's getting his hair cleaned, but it's not ideal using this dry rubbing shampoo forever. I think there might be a short haircut in his future. But yeah, so he was tired on Saturday night. On Sunday night, sorry. He then got up mega early Monday morning. Again, I think because he wanted to review the day on his phone, go through his normal stuff that he does off of going on one of these trips. Normally we'd do the trip on the Saturday and he'd spend all Sunday doing that. But he got up really early, was messing around on his phone from quite early, looking through his stuff from the day before, but came down for breakfast as normal. It didn't really show any indication that he was going to be refusing school at that point. Normally, if he's already decided he's not going, he won't even come down for breakfast. He'll just hide in his room, refuse to get dressed, refuse to come down until he decides it's a safe time to come down and we're not going to make him go in. But he came down for breakfast. So we didn't realize there was going to be any problem. But then midway through his breakfast, he just said to Anna, "Oh, I've got a headache." And I don't think he had a headache. That's normally his, I'm trying it on a little bit here. He's like, "Oh, head hurts," is what he does. He'd shown no indication of having a headache. He's saying that whilst blasting loud stuff out on his iPad and eating his breakfast. So I don't think he had a headache. I think he just sat there and thought, I really don't fancy school today. He was tired. He was a little bit grumpy. And yeah, he said he had a headache. And we said, well, you can have some Calpol then, but you're still going to school. And immediately, no school. And he was just straight in with the angry eyes flared up immediately. And it was immediately, no school. So we gave him his medicine, had a little bit of a back and forth for a little while, telling him he was going to school, him telling us he's not going to school. In the end, we just gave up with going back and forth with him. He had his medicine. He went back off upstairs. It's only about 7:30 in the morning at this point. So we don't leave for school until 9 o'clock. So we figured let's go and let him go upstairs, have an hour, and then try again like 8:30, 8:45-ish, get him up, get him ready. Then it only takes 10 minutes to get his teeth clean, give him a little bit of a wash in the morning, get him dressed, all that kind of stuff. So we tried again at 8:45, and at that point, he'd just decided he wasn't going. We'd already taken his devices off him after the kitchen incident. We said, well, if you're not going to school, you're not having your devices then. So he took his iPad, his Switch, and his phone. They're the only devices that he's got at the moment because he still doesn't have a TV in his room because it's not his birthday yet. So we took those bits off of him and said, well, you can go upstairs. If you've got a headache, go and have a sleep. He went upstairs. He didn't have a nap. He just lied on his bed fuming for an hour from what we can tell. And we went in at like 8:45-ish, tried again, and straight away he's shouting at us. After a lot of back and forth, we got him into the bathroom to do his teeth really reluctantly. And he just looks grumpy and angry the whole time. He's completely naked. And I sorted his toothbrush out, put the toothpaste on, gave him his toothbrush. He just turned around and hurled his toothbrush out the bathroom door, across the landing. It splattered into the wall at the top of the stairs where I could barely even reach to wipe the toothpaste off the wall. But he threw his toothbrush away and dropped to the floor. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is not happening. We carried on trying to push for probably another half hour or so. It was about 9:30 when we finally gave in. And there's no forcing him these days. He probably weighs about 10 stone now. He's probably about 5'4", 5'5", 10 stone. Well, I can't just pick him up and put him in the back of the car anymore the way I used to be able to. If he decides he's not going to be doing something, he won't be doing that thing, and he knows it. He knows. Stupid camera just turned itself off. Yeah, he knows. He knows that if he doesn't want to do it and he refuses to cooperate, that it isn't getting done. So we said to him, well, if you don't go to school, there'll be no phone, no iPad, no Switch until after you've been to school. So it's not a case of he just has to make it, because years ago when he was refusing, as part of the social worker, the idea was, and this was their suggestion, and we just went along with it because we're good little boys and girls. But the idea was he's not allowed his stuff when he would be at school. But as soon as it gets to 3 o'clock and he would be at home, you give him his stuff back. So you're not just making his day completely miserable. We've kind of had a change of heart on that recently. And now he can just hold out for 6 hours, and he'd rather sit there glaring and shouting for 6 hours and then get his stuff back. He'll go through that. So the new rule is if you don't go, you don't get your stuff back until you've been. So we made it very clear that it would be school, then devices, and we include TV in the devices. So there'd be he doesn't have a TV of his own at the moment. He does watch the CBeebies bedtime hour every night, watches Night Guard and all that stuff. We said to him, there'll be no Night Garden, no CBeebies, no TV, no devices until you've been to school. And he's like, fine, no school, no devices, no school. And he just shouted that back at us multiple times, and then went to bed and went to sleep, because obviously he's had his medicine makes him sleep. So that then took him through until about lunchtime. He did come down into the kitchen and had himself some lunch. He seemed in a really good mood at lunchtime. Anna was streaming at the time, but me and Andy were up in the kitchen, and just generally he seemed in a good mood. The TV was off because he was on no devices. He had no devices with him. So we were talking. He had his lunch. He agreed that after lunch he would go to school, because he was asking really nicely, being really polite, trying to get his stuff back. And I said, well, if you want your stuff back, you've got to go to school. We can go to school now. And he was like, school now, then devices. I said, yeah, if you go into school now, you can have your devices when we get back. So he ran off upstairs to go and get dressed. He said, yeah, school now, then devices. Ran off upstairs, got dressed. I had to go and interrupt Anna's stream, get her to stop so that she could make sure he was putting on the right clothes and we could get him taken into school. But by the time me and Anna got upstairs and she was handing him the clothes that he was going to wear, he was like, no school. What he actually wanted to do was wear his pajamas to school and then go and sleep at school. So his genius plan that he had was go to school in his pajamas, get there and just go and sleep, so that he'd only have to be there for a few hours. He could sleep through it in his pajamas and then come home and get his stuff. And we said, no, you're not going to go and do that. You're going to put your clothes on and you're going to go and do school properly. And he wasn't up for that. So he just refused to do that. We had the same conversations again of, well, then there'll be no devices today. Then you'll have to wait until after school tomorrow. He's like, sleep, then devices in the morning. No, you go to school. And we were really clear, school, then devices. So school on Tuesday, then devices. And we kept making that point with him. And in the end, he agreed he would have school on Tuesday, then devices. And he then went back to bed. Again, he wasn't medicated a second time, but he just went back to bed and slept. And he slept through till tea time, came downstairs, had his tea, started trying to butter Anna up to get his devices back. And that was pretty much the story through the rest of the evening. He spent the entire evening trying to negotiate with Anna to get his devices back. She held firm. She wasn't having any of it. He went to bed at normal time, got up at 4 a.m. this morning because he was that desperate to get to school to get his stuff back. But got up at 4 a.m. this morning, was totally cooperative, and went into school as normal. No issue. We let him have his phone in the car, because that's part of the negotiation that we have. When he has his devices taken off him, he can have his phone back in the car on the way to school, and he'll get the rest of the devices back when he gets back now. But we've had 2 different phone calls from school today, worried that he's going to the toilet too much. The first one was at like 11:30, 12ish, saying he's been for 6 poos already this morning. And we're like, well, it sounds a little bit weird. He does have a thing sometimes where if he just decides he doesn't like pooing, he'll hold it all in until he can't hold it in anymore, and then he'll have a pooing day. That is something that he's done, because he just doesn't I know it's a weird sensory thing that we don't really understand. Sometimes he'll just hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it until he can't hold it anymore. And then it will just keep coming because it's backed up for a little while. I don't think he spent a lot of time in the toilet yesterday because he was sleeping for a lot of the day. So it could be that he's had 6 poos, but they encourage independence on going to the toilet at his school. So they're not actually going in there with him. So they don't actually know that he's going in there to poo. And it did seem a lot. And then we got another phone call about 1:30. In fact, no, it's 1:30 now. It must have been about 12:30, 1 o'clock-ish, saying he's been 8 more times. So at that point, he's been there from 9:30 till 12:30. So in 3 hours, he's been for a poo. 14 times. They're not going with him. And I think, to me, it seems pretty clear that he's just realised he can leave the classroom, go to the toilet and not do any work. And then he'll go there for a few minutes. Apparently he goes to the toilet, comes back and says, did a big smelly poo, then sits back down. And then a few minutes later, he goes off to the toilet again, is there for a few minutes, comes back, tells them he's done a big smelly poo. And they're taking it on face value that he's gone and had a poo 14 times. I suspect that's not what's happening. And what we've told them just now is that for the rest of the day, go with him and see what he's actually doing in there. And we've not had another phone call to say they're concerned about him going to the toilet anymore. And that was about an hour ago. So I suspect when we get there, we're going to be told, yeah, he did go to the toilet a couple more times, but he wasn't pooing. He was just in there. And he didn't like the fact that we went with him. So I suspect that's what we're going to find out when we get there. But he's just got it in his head. He doesn't really want to do school at the moment. He hasn't really got a motivator to get him in at the moment. He's done all of the stuff that he wants to do. He went to Wicksteed Park with school last week. He went to Nottingham this weekend, just gone. He knows the school holidays is in a few weeks. He's counting down to the summer holidays, and he knows we'll do all of his stuff that he likes to do in the summer holidays. He knows his birthday's coming. There's not really anything to bribe him with to convince him to go to school now. So he's now just having to go, or else he loses his stuff. And I guess if he thinks he can sleep through a day and then not really do anything at school, and he's just trying to get out of everything. He's trying to do the absolute minimum to keep his stuff. It's a battle of wills, and he is being at his manipulative best. But he won't win. He'll get home today. He'll get his stuff back. Fingers crossed he'll go in again tomorrow because it'll be back into habit again. I'd like to think they'll have tempted him with something that will make him want to go in tomorrow. And we'll take it from there for the rest of the week. But we're never clear of this school refusal thing. He first started, school attendance has always been a little bit of an issue. I remember when they were still in Nottingham, and I would go over to visit Anna sometimes, and there were a couple of times where I ended up carrying him to school because he didn't want to go back then. And his missing odd days here and there has always been a thing. Obviously back in year 8, when he was like 11, 12 years old, he had that 18 months where he wouldn't go at all. And then he had a good couple of years where he went a lot. But this last 2 years with the pandemic messing up attendance and requirements and what school actually is, he's never really bought into the idea of it again. He doesn't like being there. He'll often try and get out of it. And we need these constant bribes. And at the moment, we don't really have one. So we'll see how he goes for the rest of the term. And then, I mean, he's got to go, 12 more times? It might not even be that. He'll know how many more times he's got to go, but it's not very many. And then he's got 6 weeks off and he cannot wait. So we'll keep battling until the end. He knows he's won the war overall because he's very close to having 6 weeks off. And in his mind, 6 weeks might as well be forever because it's such a long time. School refusal. Oh, school refusal.